Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Information on how to watch, attend, and participate, as well as agendas, minutes, and recordings can be found at Broomfield's website at broomfield.org/council meetings. Public comment is welcome in person or through our call-in service. Instructions for calling in are available on the council meetings webpage. Public comment will be limited to 90 minutes total per item. The first 1 through 15 participants in the queue have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 through 25 have 2 minutes, and if time remains, the next 26 plus participants in the queue have 1 minute. For our hard of hearing residents present, we have wireless headsets available in the back of the council chambers from our AV team. The City Council regular meeting is called to order. Councilmember Peterson is absent, and Councilmember Henkel will be here later in the meeting. I'm assuming Councilmember Brown is on her way. So there are 7 council members in attendance, and a quorum of the council is present. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Ute, and other Native peoples. Indigenous peoples have cared for this land for generations and continue to maintain deep cultural and spiritual ties to it. As the City and County of Broomfield, we recognize the responsibility to honor this legacy and the enduring presence of Native communities. May this acknowledgement inspire action that fosters greater understanding, truth, and respect for Indigenous peoples. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, I ask council members to limit their comments to 5 minutes. If council members are given a second opportunity to speak, they should limit their comments to 2 minutes. And we'll plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We'll begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for the meeting. Does any member of the council have any comments or questions regarding this evening's agenda? Are there any objections to this agenda being approved? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Our first item under petitions and communications this evening is a presentation from Emerald Elementary's No Place for Hate Coalition and a proclamation declaring April 28th, 2026 as No Place for Hate Day in Broomfield. We will start with the presentation. So would the representatives from the No Place for Hate Coalition please come up to the podium and share your presentation with us?
Hi, everybody. I'm Samara Williams, the proud principal at Emerald, and I just wanted you all to know that this is our 13th year being a No Place for Hate school, and we're really, really proud of that. That's 13 groups of student leaders who have committed to making the world a better place, starting at their own school. Every week when they walk over to their meeting, it's every other week, I say, good luck at No Place for Hate. And when they get in, I say, did you make the world a better place? And they always say yes. So we're really proud to have this program in Broomfield. When our kids go to Broomfield Heights, they get to continue that program, and it also continues at Broomfield High School. So we're really proud of that and proud of these kids that are going to tell you all about it. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you for allowing us to be here with you this evening. We are grateful for your time. Emerald Elementary School is a No Place for Hate school and has been for 13 consecutive years. We are very proud of this achievement and work.
Being a No Place for Hate Being a No Place for Hate school means we are creating the school where every student, staff member, and visitor, no matter their race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and background, feels valued, respected, and safe.
We are very proud to have 45 student coalition members from 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, alongside support from Mr. B, Miss Williams, and David and Jerry, who volunteer their time to support this program. Every student and community member at Emerald is part of No Place for Hate. As students, we feel this is worthy of our focus, our energy, and time. We meet every other Monday to ask one simple question. How can we make our school a better place for everyone? A place where kids feel welcome, a place where they belong, a place where we stand up to bullying together as allies and upstanders. We do several activities throughout the year. Here are a few. A Broomfield Community Food Drive where we collected over 2,600 items. A Wear Pink Day for anti-bullying awareness, because at Emerald we believe colors are for everyone.
A Chalk the Walk activity where our students fill the school pathways and sidewalks with positive messages and pictures for every student and family to see. And also our resolution of respect, which is written by us and signed by everyone at Emerald.
This year's resolution of respect at Emerald Elementary reads as follows. The staff and students of Emerald Elementary, in order to make the school the best school possible, will respect other people's bodies, boundaries, and unique identities. Model safe behaviors like being kind, using manners, please and thank you, and including everyone. Respect people and treat everyone the same or better than you would like to be treated. Be respectful and show our fire. Focus, integrity, respect, and empathy at all times in all spaces.
Wait a minute, did you say fire? Yes, we did. Please don't panic. Fire is our school motto. It helps us when we behave and support one another in school with focus, integrity, respect, and empathy.
By committing to eliminate hate in our schools, we create safe, inclusive spaces, not just for us, but for our entire community. Perhaps now more than ever, this work matters, but we know that's a goal that Broomfield shares with us too. Here are a few tips for making our community better. If you see something, say something. Bullying will continue if nobody's willing to speak up. Support our community members who have or are still experiencing bullying and hate. Find and support organizations that are working to eradicate bullying and hate. Be a voice for others who aren't ready to speak up about their experience. And finally, join No Place for Hate and advise the effects that are happening within our community. We are proudly going to display our Broomfield No Place for Hate proclamation in the lobby for all of our guests and visitors to see, so they would know this is a space that shouts out, all are welcome here.
Our school stands as an upstanding community where inclusion thrives, ensuring that every voice is heard and kindness guides our actions towards building a place where hate has no home.
Looking forward, as we face the challenges that divide us, we must remember that every child deserves to see themselves reflected in a community that values their worth, listens to their dreams, and stands beside them in the work of creating real and lasting change.
Thank you again for welcoming us here this evening. Thank you for your partnership and support. Together, we are building a better community for everyone.
Does that conclude your presentation?
It's a wrap, yeah.
I have no words. I thank you all so much for your presentation and all the work you're doing to promote this program. Now we'll proceed with a summary of the proclamation. The City and County of Broomfield proclaims April 28th, 2026 as No Place for Hate Day and to recognize the importance of anti-bias education and celebrate the efforts of the No Place for Hate Coalition at Emerald Elementary. This day highlights Broomfield's commitment to diversity, acceptance, and the prevention of bullying, aiming to build a more equitable and just community. The coalitions encourage individuals and groups to engage in regular acts of kindness, and organizations throughout Broomfield support these efforts by participating in anti-bias education and activities. Therefore, as mayor, I hereby declaim and proclaim April 28th, 2026 as No Place for Hate Day in Broomfield. Would anyone else in the coalition like to provide any comments? We do allow public comment. Oh, please go ahead, sir.
So I'm known as Jerry, which is my name. And I'm the volunteer for one of the volunteers, along with David, who's sitting over there, from the Anti-Defamation League, which is the organization that sponsors No Place for Hate. And I cannot tell you how proud we are of these students and of Emerald Elementary School. It's been in our program, like has been said, for a long time, 13 years. And we've seen the change in the climate at the school, and also want to thank you as City Council for adopting this. Right now, you're the only city in the state of Colorado that does this, and I would love to see it spread. But I want to congratulate you for accepting this and for doing this for these kids. Thank you.
Oh, it's my honor. It's our honor. Thank you guys so much for being here. You filled our hearts. Did you want to come say something? Come on up. I know you guys are courageous.
Well, every time I go to No Place for Hate, it is a great spot to talk about what is going on in our school and what's happening. And it is making people very open about like if people are being mean to them. So it stopped like many people bullying in our school.
It's working.
Yeah.
Great job. Welcome to come up and speak. This is your day.
I just think that this is a huge achievement, and I'm really proud of this work from all of us.
We're proud of you too.
No place. Oh,
That happens to all of them.
our No Place for Hate thing is for third to fifth, and I think it doesn't just help third and fifth because I know that a lot of kindergarteners and people below the grades that meet the requirement to meet and stuff like that all know about it, and they all show respect to it, and they all like help the community in their own ways, even if it's not No Place for Hate for them.
Wonderful. Thank you. Come on up. If you guys want to speak, you can form a line behind the podium. That'll make it go quicker.
I just really like No Place for Hate. And even though this is my first year, I'm like definitely gonna do it next year. And I just love it. And I'm thankful that Mr. B and David and Jerry are like volunteering their time to do this for us. I know this is my first year doing it, but I think it's been a really cool experience, and I think it's really cool that our school does this.
Me too. You're very unique. We need to find you some company.
Also, to make sure that everyone knows about No Place for Hate, we Mr. B, every year, teaches about it in classes, and also we make skits for to show to the school.
Well done.
This is my first time here, and I'm definitely gonna do it next year. And I just think this is a really cool experience talking in front of you guys.
Well, you don't seem nervous.
Every week we come like 2 days every other week we'll come down and talk about how we could do something better, like wear pink day and add on to all that stuff.
Awesome.
Just noticed that all of new kids come to our school because they were bullied, and that doesn't happen as much in our school. I've noticed that people leave because of bullying.
Wonderful.
I'm just really happy that there is a No Place for Hate like club, because there is a lot of hate in the world, and I think if some people try to stand up, there's going to be a lot less hate in the world. So I'm just really happy for this coalition.
Just thank you again for giving us a shout out, I guess. And also, I'm very thankful for David and Jerry and Mr. B who brought the No Place for Hate activity to the school. And I think we're really doing a great job with all the schools who have a No Place for Hate community or club, that is really affecting it. That is really affecting other schools and making them have less hate in their schools.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for letting us come, and all of this for No Place for Hate.
Thank you.
Also, it made a change in like it used to. Now it's more positive in the school environment.
That's excellent.
Well, I want to say something about No Place for Hate. Mr. B, he always
Fall off. It's okay.
he doesn't. Mr. B, he comes up to every single grade, every single classroom, every other week, and he talks about like bullying, and we have a lot of posters in our rooms about no bullying and stuff like that. And I don't know if Broomfield does, but I think that Mr. B has done an amazing job with working here today with No Place for Hate, and I'm very thankful that we were allowed to meet here with you, all of you guys.
Oh, go Mr. B. Can we clone you, Mr. B? And use you everywhere. We also allow public comment. If anyone else is moved and wants to make any comments on this proclamation, now would be the time. And if not, I'll go to my council colleagues. Do any of my colleagues have anything they would like to say? Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. I was reflecting while you guys were talking that I used to work at a university where one of the graduation requirements was public speaking. And most of our students put it off to the last semester because it scared them to death. And you've accomplished that already. That's impressive. And it'll help you so much, because I know someday when you graduate from Emerald, you're going to meet people in the world who haven't had the benefit of the education these gentlemen are giving you. And you'll be able to use your voices to tell them that inclusivity is not hard, it's not threatening, and you can teach the lessons you've been learning to other people as well. So thank you for everything you do. I hope you have the opportunity to spread the joy to other schools in Bolton Broomfield, and we'll bring them here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. I really just want to quickly say, let me know when you guys are running for city council. You got my vote. So hit me up, keep me posted. Excited for when you're old enough to run for office. Thank you.
And yes, I go back to a few years ago when a student from Broomfield Heights reached out and asked if we would consider this. And it wasn't even something I had to think about. It was definitely, we need to do this. So as long as I'm around, and I hope it's preserved for posterity, we will celebrate No Place for Hate Day in Broomfield. And I would love to ask you all to come join us on the steps of the dais, and we'll take a group picture. You guys have to go to picture. We'll give our guests a minute to make their way out.
Old building.
Well, now there's not a lot of people left. But we do have a few more things to celebrate and proclaim today. But that's a hard act to follow. I don't know. They just fill my heart with hope. So next, moving on, next under petitions and communications this evening is another proclamation near and dear to our hearts. It is declaring May 2026 as Military Appreciation Month. Will the representatives here to accept the proclamation please make their way to the podium? And I'll now summarize the proclamation. The proclamation recognizes May as National Military Appreciation Month, honoring the service and sacrifice of current, former, and fallen members of the U.S. Armed Forces and their families. It highlights Broomfield's strong military and veteran community and emphasizes the city and county's commitment to supporting them through services like the Workforce Center and Veteran Services Officer, as well as partnerships that provide resources, employment research and support, and outreach. It also encourages residents to show appreciation by recognizing veterans and displaying the American flag throughout the month. Therefore, as mayor, I hereby declare and proclaim May 2026 as Military Appreciation Month in Broomfield. Would our representatives like to make any comments?
Hello, good evening, everybody. Lisana Munoz, Denver, oh my gosh, I'm tired. Broomfield Human Services. And how do you follow and act like that? Those kiddos were amazing and inspiring. So thank you for having us today. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members for supporting our efforts to recognize and assist our veterans and military families. Broomfield is fortunate to be home to many veterans and military families and is always searching for new and better ways to serve our veteran community. This is the 5th year that the month of May has been proclaimed Military Appreciation Month for the city and county of Broomfield. A big part of that is to take time to thank our veterans and families for their service, and also to reach out to veterans to bring awareness to services and resources available to them in our area. For Military Appreciation Month, the Broomfield Workforce Center, Veterans Museum Broomfield, Broomfield's Library, Senior Services, the Broomfield Police Department, and the Broomfield Development, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team are working together to plan a month full of veteran-focused events. Those events include a recognition event at the museum, Pizza for Patriots, a career and resource fair geared towards veterans, workshops for both veterans and employers, and an appreciation luncheon at the Senior Center. The month will close with the capstone event, the Memorial Day Picnic and Celebration, hosted by the Broomfield Library and the Broomfield Veterans Museum. There are approximately 3,729 Broomfield residents who are veterans, which is 4.8% of Broomfield's population. We hope, with the awareness that Military Appreciation Month brings, we are able to assist veterans, both retired and of working age, in making informed decisions about the services we offer that they would like to engage with. We would like to invite you to join us for any and all of the Military Appreciation Month events. Flyers with the calendar of events will be at the back of the room for anyone who's interested. As in years past, we are honored to partner with Broomfield Veterans Museum through our Military Appreciation Month activities. And tonight, I want to highlight the museum's valuable work with Broomfield 2026, which is commemorating the 250th anniversary of our country and the 150th anniversary of Colorado. Through these efforts, they are building connections with the community through engaging exhibits and compelling coffee and conversation talks about Colorado's citizen soldiers from 1861 to present day. The Veterans Museum is an amazing tribute to the veterans and military families of our community, and we are lucky to have such an important community resource to honor our veterans and their service and remind us of the values of courage, sacrifice, and dedication, which strengthens our community and spirit. The Broomfield Veterans Museum enriches our community in so many ways, educating our young people, fostering community pride, and honoring the brave Broomfield residents that served our country. We are pleased to have the Veterans Museum Board President, John Petacolis, here with us tonight, and I'd like to hand it over to him for a few words.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz.
Good evening, Mayor Casciotti and City Council. Thank you very much for inviting us here and for the proclamation of May as Military Appreciation Month. My name is John Petacolis. I'm the current president of the board of the Veterans Museum. With me also are Gary Francis, the past president of the board, and Lou Roman, also past president of the board. And back over here is Bill Bates. He's our treasurer. He's very important. So thank you again. And I'd like to ask or invite the mayor to speak formally. I've actually done this, but we'll invite you again formally in public to speak at the Memorial Day picnic, which will be May 25th on Monday. And city council members also, please come and enjoy some hot dogs and hamburgers. We're going to have a great day. For the rest, there's a lot of things going on at the Veterans Museum, as most of you know. We have on the second and fourth Saturdays at 10 a.m., we have what we call Coffee and Conversation. A great program, about an hour, sometimes a little over an hour, program of military history, authors, parents of military members. We've had children of past World War II veterans speak about their parents. It's a great program. So we invite you to that anytime on the second or fourth Saturday. I'm going to turn it over to Gary to see if he has any words, but
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you, and I'll be there, Mr. Pedicolis. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you again for recognizing the Veterans Museum. My role now is as vice president, and I do the programs for the Veterans Museum. In addition to Memorial Day, which is our first major event, we also celebrate Flag Day. We celebrate that on the 14th of June or the closest Saturday to that date. We get great support from the Girl Scout troop that meets in our building, and it just turns out to be a great day. We do that outside, and we have hot dogs at that event as well. We also have the museum open on Broomfield Days, and so that's one of the, of course, the fall items. And then on November 11th, we do Veterans Day outside, and we've done that for the last 4 years with good success. And we had a good crowd there, almost 300 people this last November. So again, we try to stay involved in the community, and we really appreciate the support of the city in our building that we are in. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. And last year was really nice with the new stage.
Yeah.
That was a nice upgrade.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the council for all they do for the museum. I'd like to also say that besides our coffee and conversation, we have speakers that we can send out to various different schools and locations. And we have trunks that we can send out to schools so the kids can learn. If there are any Vietnam veterans here, welcome home. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, now we'll move to public comments. If anyone else would like to speak on this proclamation, you have an opportunity. And then council questions or comments are next, if any of my colleagues would like to say anything. Well, I'm so grateful for you. Where we are. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Twist. I just moved on, didn't I?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for being here tonight and for representing the other veterans in our community as the wife, daughter, and granddaughter of veterans. I really, truly appreciate all the work you do in our community to bring awareness and share your stories. Thank you to the workforce team for providing opportunities for veterans in our community. And we look forward to participating in all of the upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you all for the amazing opportunity to observe National Military Appreciation Month and all the work that you're doing in our community to bring everyone together. I just want to give a shout out to the Veterans Museum. I went there for the first time about a year ago, and it's amazing. So I just want to say, if anyone's listening or watching and you have not been over there, extremely high quality exhibits that were done, I think, by, a nationally renowned curator, and it's really fantastic. So the fact that we have that in our Broomfield community is really a testament to the work that you all do in bringing people here. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Well, I would like to present the proclamation to you all, and let's have a photo in front of the dais if you're up for it. Come on, Posse.
Yeah, Dave.
We wouldn't have this stuff for that too.
Right.
If you need some people on this side. All right, everyone ready? See you all. Thank you. And continuing on with our Love Fest, we can't forget Small Business Week. Next, under petitions and communications this evening is a proclamation declaring May 3rd through 9th, 2026 as Small Business Week in Broomfield. Will the representatives here to accept the proclamation please come up to the podium?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I'm Victoria Tran with Economic Vitality. We just want to thank you so much for your continued support of the businesses we have here in Broomfield, large and small. Here to accept tonight's proclamation is Seth Timu Odding with Corazon Printing, a local Broomfield business who has
We know it.
Oh, then you know the continued success that they have in Broomfield. And so I'll invite Seth to say a few words here, and I'll answer any questions that you guys may have. And then I'll invite the Broomfield Chamber as well to say a few words. Okay, thank you.
Before you start, Seth, I'm going to go ahead and summarize the
I'm
proclamation.
so sorry.
No, that's okay. I kind of went out of order. I'll summarize the proclamation and then we'll hear your remarks. I'm so glad you're here. This proclamation celebrates the vital role small businesses play in Broomfield's economy and community, noting that they make up the vast majority of businesses both locally and across Colorado. It recognizes small businesses as key providers of jobs, opportunities, and innovation, often serving as people's first workplace and foundation for skill building. The city highlights its ongoing support through funding programs, partnerships, and initiatives like Broomfield Business Week, and joins the longstanding national tradition of recognizing Small Business Week to honor the contributions of our small business owners. Therefore, as mayor, I hereby declare and proclaim May 3rd through 9th, 2026 as Small Business Week in Broomfield. Would the representatives like to make any remarks?
Hi, my name is Seth Temuading. I'm from Corazon Printing, and I'm proud to represent both the company, but also small businesses here in Broomfield. We started the company about 3 years ago. We were able to get a micro grant, which really helped us last those first 6 months or so, just as we were launching. And we've just been growing from there. We now have 5 employees. We're looking to expand, and we're just love to be here. My partner, Anna, can't be here tonight, but she had a conversation with our mayor, and she said to the mayor that, we're looking to move somewhere because we need to grow. And she was like, we're thinking of other cities. And Guyleen said, nope, you're not leaving. You're staying here in Broomfield. So yeah, just honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Mr. Monticelli?
I'm cheating. I have my notes on my phone. Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. My name is Pat Monticelli. I am a Broomfield resident, also the CEO of the Broomfield Chamber of Commerce. The U.S. Small Business Administration classifies a small business as one having less than 500 employees. We have a little bit different definition in the chamber world, and especially here at the Broomfield Chamber, we define a small business as a business that has less than 25 employees. With that definition still, out of a 550-member Broomfield area chamber, 84% of our membership is 25 or fewer employees. That includes family-owned shops, restaurants, contractors, nonprofits, startups, and local service providers that keep our community connected and strong every day. So on behalf of the Chamber and our small business community, I want to thank the City Council for recognizing Small Business Week and for your continued support of the entrepreneurs and business owners who invest in our city year-round. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, we'll move to public comments. If anyone else would like to speak on this proclamation, now's your opportunity. Then I'll go to my council colleagues. Anyone on council? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor, I wanted to speak as I have the privilege of representing council on the Chamber of Commerce Board. I want to thank all of you for all of our small businesses for being here in Broomfield. It's exciting, it's appreciated, and it's very much needed. And then I also do want to appreciate the relationship that we have with our business community, our economic development staff here, and then also the Chamber of Commerce. It's great to be able to talk about things, be in contact, and hopefully, do things together and make sure things work out together. So it's been a wonderful partnership and I continue to appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other colleagues? Well, I think we're going to take a picture now, if you don't mind. Come on again. What last time? Promise.
Oh, I think I clicked. Why is it up? Okay.
Oh, I'm fine. Grab books, get full.
All right. Next up, our final item under petitions and communications this evening is an update on the status of Flatiron Crossing and Hi-Fi development projects from Jacob Knudsen, Vice President of Real Estate Development at Mesa Ridge. Mr. Knudsen, please come to the podium. You're there, and give us your update.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city manager. Happy to be back in front of you all. Jacob Knudsen, Vice President of Development with Mesa Ridge, owner of Flatiron Crossing Mall, and coming soon, Hi-Fi at Flatiron Crossing. I have a brief presentation tonight, but I did want to start by saying, though it's brief, I want to thank city staff first and foremost. There's a couple in here tonight, but those know who I email weekly. There's so much going on in the background. This is a huge project, and really just want to thank the city and county of Broomfield staff for all of their help getting us to where we are today. So let's jump in. So, first I wanted to start out with a slide. Any of you that have been to the mall over the past year, there's so much going on. And this really goes back to the beginning conversations that we had with the city and county of Broomfield and why we needed this reinvestment, why this needed to take place. We were at a turning point, and it truly has proven out. I do have to keep my notes here because there's so much going on. I'm going to read a few off. Recent openings, we've had Abercrombie & Fitch just this past Friday, Lego, Lululemon, Anthropologie, Sweet Play, Victoria's Secret, Bath & Body, all recently opened. Under construction right now, Goriana, J. Crew Factory, China Experience, Garage, Earthbound Trading, and Journeys. And then recently signed leases that are not under construction yet, Warby Parker, Levi's, Starbucks, Rowan, Vuori, Famous Footwear, and there's many more coming in the pipeline. So really, again, it goes back to the reason that this investment was made, and it is proving out already. And again, just think the partnership with the city and county of Broomfield. Next slide. So just threw this in case there's any questions. I think most are familiar, but this is the 25-acre Hi-Fi development area that's between the mall and the AMC theaters and the restaurants down on the south end. Next slide. 345 is now actually 348 residential units that are under construction, 90,000 square feet of entertainment, retail, and food and beverage, and then the 2.5-acre outdoor event space. Next slide. So I know when I was here last and gave an update, we did announce that we had signed the lease with Pindustry. So Pindustry is our entertainment anchor. It's going to be a 2-level building plus a enclosed rooftop patio, 40,000 square feet in total. local developer. He has his existing business down in Greenwood Village, so this will be his second location. We're super excited about that. And this really was, it was funny, our leasing team said, you know, we need to make this deal. If we make this deal, people local in the community know who Pindustry is and will follow. And it really played out. As soon as we signed this lease, next slide, these three quickly followed. So these are the first three restaurants that we have announced. I think these were new since I was last in front of you. But we have signed leases with Memoir and Blue Sushi Shaki Grill. These are by Flagship Restaurant Group. Memoir is an upscale American cuisine. They have one location in Omaha. This will be their second location in the country, and they're really calling this their flagship. It's going to be a fantastic build out. Blue Sushi Sake Grill, there's locations in Denver, but they're going to do another location here in Broomfield, and then Shake Shack coming as well. Do want to say if we had probably another 30 days for me to give this update, we have a lot in the pipeline coming. More to announce really soon that unfortunately I can't see tonight, but very exciting and a lot more to come. Next slide. A couple quick construction shots. So this is just as of last Thursday, I believe. This shot's from on top of the Crate and Barrel right outside the food court entrance. Looking south, you can no longer see AMC because that's the apartments there on the right under construction. That concrete you see on the bottom is the retail podium. So that'll be the restaurants and retail at grade. And then the first level and start of the second level framing of the apartments above. On the left side, that white brick you see, that is the Memoir building. And next slide. And then an aerial shot. And so this is as of about a month ago, but we've opened up the roundabout. Anybody that's tried to access the mall, we opened this up just before the holidays last year. Still obviously a lot going on, but circulation is vastly improved. So we're excited. If anybody hasn't been to the property lately, I urge you to go by. It's super exciting. The tours that we're doing with tenants now that you can actually put a hard hat on and walk through this, significant interest. It's gone to us asking tenants to come to tenants begging us to let them come. And that's why there's going to be some very exciting announcements coming soon. I also did want to mention, again, this one's probably just 2 weeks too far in advance, but we do have a replacement anchor for the former Nordstrom building. We'll be signing a deal for that soon, and we'll be announcing that in the next couple of weeks. So again, it really all comes back to the investment that's being made here and the excitement campus-wide that we're creating. It's incredible to see all the positive momentum that's coming. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Well, wow, it's marvelous. I just really look forward to your updates because it just keeps going in leaps and bounds. I'll go to my colleagues first, of course. We are doing public comments on this. So does anybody have any comments on the Flatirons redevelopment? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Any council questions, comments, feedback? Councilmember Twist.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'm wondering about those hard hat tours. Is it possible for us to take
It is.
of all the things that are going on over there?
Absolutely. Let's coordinate. Happy to do it anytime.
Excellent. Thank you. That was my question.
Well, that was
That was an easy one.
I know. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
Yes, we can't tell you how thrilled we are that you are making such wonderful progress. Do you foresee any difficulties in the future? We're hearing other voices say they're having trouble with funding, with tariffs, with different aspects of the economy that are prohibiting them from moving very quickly. Do you foresee any difficulty with that?
No, and thank you. I forgot to mention that we are on schedule. I should have started out with that. No, we are 97% of our projects bought out, contracted and bought out. And so we're moving forward. There's just a few things, some signage and some other things that we're working through that we'll trail. But no, we are on schedule. The Pindustry and the restaurants will open next spring of 2027, and the first units under the residential will open next summer, and that's on schedule as planned, as we've been saying for the last year or so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. thank you very much for giving us an excellent presentation. Always excited to hear what's happening at the mall. You guys never bring or have yet to bring bad news, and I hope it continues to be that way. I just have some questions that I hope can illuminate for council the landscape of kind of the development field right now, because we've been having some issues with someone else. And so my first question is going to be, how much of this project is just Macerich, and how much of this is you partnering with other developers and entities to make this project happen?
So Macerich, we do have a partner that we own the mall with. So there's a 50-50 partnership, Macerich and another group, long-term ownership of the mall. And then getting into the Hi-Fi project specifically, I've shared, so we did bring on Crescent Communities. We did a public RFP and went through a process and partnered with Crescent Communities. They came in as the GP partner in the deal, and Macerich and our mall partner are putting up the majority of the equity in the residential.
Okay. And going on to the financing now, how much of that is your equity that you're putting in from the company versus how much are you going out to bond markets or other private equity, et cetera?
Yeah, so there's no private equity. There's a portion of the capital stack that's between Macerich and our partner, and then the group that we bought in, and then traditional construction financing.
Okay. And it hasn't necessarily been a problem getting that traditional financing?
No.
Wonderful. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from my colleagues? I am so impressed. I really am. It feels like we just approved this project and you guys just broke ground, and now we're, it's rising up quickly.
Feels like I've been here for 6 years, so. But thank you.
No, I appreciate the efficiency that you're progressing. The progress really is encouraging, and the good news just keeps coming in. So really, you've just been wonderful partners, and we're grateful for this partnership with you.
Thank you. Agreed, and can't say enough about the same about you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was brief. All right, then we're moving on to the report section of the evening. Do any council members have any reports? Councilmember Twist.
Thank you again. This past week, I had the opportunity to represent the residents of Broomfield in Washington, D.C. with the Northwest Mayors and County Commissioners. We made the trip together to show our strong, unified support for regional transportation projects, Front Range passenger rail, and aviation safety. And of course, the importance of funding for these projects for our community and our residents. Our group included myself and elected officials and staff from Boulder County, as well as the cities of Boulder, Longmont, Superior, Louisville, Lafayette, and Westminster. We met with 4 members of the Colorado congressional delegation and both Colorado senators or their policy staff. There were several people who were up till 4 a.m. the night before on the House floor. So thank you to everyone in all of those meetings. We also met with the Senate Commerce Committee staff, House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee staff, and a number of officials from the FAA. I had the honor of leading our meeting with our Colorado District 7 representative, Brittany Pedersen. I'd like to thank Audrey DeBarros from Commuting Solutions and others who organized the trip and scheduled all of the meetings somehow back to back to back to back for a day and a half. It was pretty intense. I'd also really like to express my gratitude to Broomfield's own Deputy Director for Transportation, Sarah Grant, for the work that she does on these projects every day, and for taking the time to help me be as prepared as I could for these meetings. A full report will be posted soon to the travel and training section of the city's website for anyone interested in additional information about this trip or our advocacy efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much for representing us, Councilmember Twist. Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
I just wanted to make the public aware of several open houses and information sessions that are coming up that I know that many of us on council will be present for also. Tomorrow in Westminster City Hall, there will be a public open house and information session on Front Range Passenger Rail. Friday is the Income Aligned Housing Month kickoff event at Broomfield Community Center from 4:30 to 6:30. And next Wednesday, May the 6th, will at 6:30 at Broomfield Community Center will be the Broomfield Police Building Design and Future Construction Information Session. So please take advantage of those opportunities to become informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Twist, did you forget something? Okay, good.
I got excited about my report. Thank you. And forgot to mention that next Tuesday night, because Councilmember Peterson and I don't like having Tuesday nights off, apparently, we will be hosting a Ward 1 Town Hall at the Refuge at 7 o'clock. Tuesday, May 5th, and we welcome anyone to come. I believe Mayor Pro Tem Lim will be joining us as well. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Any other reports from my colleagues? Announcements? What have you? All right, welcome, Councilmember Hinkle. All right, well, now we'll continue with public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters other than the items listed on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone who would like to be heard? Please make your way to the podium. State your name and neighborhood for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone online, Curtis? All right. Moving on to reports from City Manager Hoffman. Do you have a report this evening?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Rogers, do you have a report?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Council's consideration of the consent items is next. One of the consent items this evening is a Board of Equalization item, and one is a Board of Social Services item. As a reminder, Council is the Board of Equalization and the Board of Social Services. So a vote by Council on these items is also a vote of the BOE and the BSS. The clerk will read all of the consent items by title, and there'll be one opportunity for public comments and council questions and comments. Will the clerk please read agenda items 6A through 6F by title?
6A, approval of minutes for the regular council meeting of April 7th, 2026. 6B, proposed resolution number 2026-55, approving an intergovernmental agreement for 2026 fare reimbursement, Broomfield, Broomfield North, and Interlochen Flex Ride services. 6C, proposed resolution number 2026-49-BOE for action on certain abatement petitions. 6D, proposed resolution number 2026-56, approving authorization for spending under master services agreements for Broomfield public signage, pump maintenance services, fitness and cardio equipment, and environmental services. 6E, proposed resolution number 2026-61-BSS, acknowledging review of expenditures and electronic benefit transfers for October, November, and December 2025. And 6F, request for executive session regarding Broomfield Town Square.
Very much. We'll now proceed with public comments on these items. If any residents are using the call-in service, please press *9 to raise your hand. We'll start with in person. Please make your way to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and staff. My comment is going to be on 6F, the request for executive session regarding the Broomfield Town Square. Use these wisely. Get all the information. Don't be short. Take as long as you need to get the correct information. Our legal staff is very, very good. Use them to the best that you can. They do get paid good money too, by the way. But still, this is a very important session. So please, please, everybody pay attention Everybody learn, and please don't leave out anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to be heard? All right, next is questions from council. Does any member of council have any questions or comments on these items? Seeing none, before asking for a motion, I want to remind everyone that item 6F is a request for an executive session, which requires 2/3 approval of council. Is there a motion by council that consent items 6A through 6F be approved? Councilmember Ward.
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 9-0. Moving on, first under action items is the public hearing and council's consideration of a resolution related to the application for a new rehabilitation hospital at 9150 Metro Airport Avenue. I'll now declare the public hearing open. We'll follow the city standard public hearing procedures. First, staff will present a summary of the proposal. Next, we'll have the applicant's presentation. Then we'll ask for public comments and final comments from the applicant. Finally, questions from city council members. Following council questions, I will close the hearing. Following the hearing will be council's discussion, consideration, and vote on the application based on the applicable criteria stated in the code. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, community and council. Miss Judy Harmer is going to walk us through this item. She's our principal planner. It's always good to see you, Miss Harmer.
Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you. City Manager Hoffman, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Judy Hammer, representing the Planning Division. Next slide, please. The project before you this evening is for a site development plan to capture improvements related to a proposed hospital, rehabilitation facility at 9150 Metro Airport Avenue. Concurrent with this STP, the property is also undergoing a minor subdivision plat, which is done administratively, and this will subdivide the existing property that you see outlined here, which is 11.79 acres, into 2 commercial lots. The lot proposed for the hospital will be comprised of approximately 7.20 acres. This aerial image shows the vicinity of the immediate area, which is primarily commercial and light industrial. The properties to the east is an Arby's restaurant and a 7-Eleven convenience store, and they are also subject to the Jeffco Airport Business Center East Planned Unit Development Plan. The property to the west is the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport, and that's just right underneath that label there that says project location. And that is, of course, owned by Jefferson County and within that jurisdiction. Properties to the south are within the city and county of Broomfield and include a brewery, a tire repair and sales shop, an animal hospital and dog kennel, and other commercial related businesses. The PUD plan lists hospital as an allowed use for this property. Next slide, please. As depicted on this plan view drawing, the proposed 53,624 square foot hospital will include parking, landscaping, and exterior lighting. There are 2 points of ingress, egress from Longs Peak Drive at the eastern side of the lot. Parking is provided around the building. A trash enclosure and other equipment enclosures are depicted at the north side of the building. The main entrance is at the east elevation. Landscaping is proposed around the site and throughout the parking lot per the requirements of the landscape code. So despite what you see here with the green, it's not all, Kentucky bluegrass that's coverage. It's just representing the landscaping. So I wanted to clarify that. Okay, next slide, please. So this slide depicts the building's elevation, highlighting the porte-cochere that was reviewed and accepted by the North Metro Fire Rescue District to ensure its height met emergency services requirements, and setbacks for the subject property are established by the PUD plan. The proposed site development plan complies with the required setbacks. Next slide, please. This elevation shows the building and how it would appear from the northeast perspective looking southwest. The plan design for the site includes landscaping that follows Broomfield's low water landscape code. Next slide, please. The applicant is requesting consideration of approval of a deviation to the parking code. The request is for an additional 67 spaces to the allowed 70 parking spaces. If approved, this would allow for a total of 137 parking spaces. The applicant has provided justification for this parking increase and will review it in more detail during their presentation. The letter indicates that there will be 80 employees during peak staffing. Examples of other hospitals that have been designed by this consultant were included to make the case for the 130 parking spaces. Next slide, please. A concept review was held via the Broomfield Voice website from September 22 through October 29, 2025. Members of council noted the importance of not overparking the site, ensuring that appropriate sound attenuation was implemented into the building materials due to its proximity to the airport. On March 23, 2026, the Land Use Review Commission held a public hearing and recommended to approve the site development plan by a vote of 5-0. The applicant conducted the required neighborhood meeting on November 19, 2025. No members of the public attended the neighborhood meeting. The required public notices have been met for this hearing, including a mailing sent to at least 10 days in advance of tonight's public hearing to all surrounding property owners within 1,000 feet of the subject property. Next slide, please. This slide details the standards for review regarding the site development plan from the Broomfield Municipal Code. The resolution for this case establishes drafted findings to assist council staff and to assist the council. Staff has provided an excerpt of those findings on the slide concurrently on this screen. Next slide, please. Staff has identified the parking increase as a key issue for this case, as discussed in detail in the staff report. The applicant will discuss the request for the deviation, as I had indicated earlier, during their presentation. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for questions regarding the staff report. Otherwise, the applicant is here tonight to provide more details about the project. Thank you.
Will the applicant's representative please identify themselves for the record before beginning their presentation this evening?
Yes, hello, everyone. My name is Garrett Baum, with Urban Frontier. I'd like to thank Mayor and council, staff, and Judy, thank you. We enjoyed working with you, and she was great to work with. A little history. In 2011, we brought Children's Hospital Therapy Center to Broomfield, created an opportunity for children of Broomfield and the surrounding area to be able to have follow-up care after hospital stays. We, Urban Frontier, are the master developer on behalf of Jefferson County. Jefferson County owns this land. We entered into a venture with them about 15 years ago to develop the 400-acre Verve Innovation Park, as well as this property. In working on the Children's Hospital Therapy Center, we noticed and recognized there was a void in the community of certain services. So we went out and sought the best-in-class Ernest Health and Great Lakes Capital to develop and have the facility Ernest Health. One thing I'd like to approach is sort of the elephant in the room, right? The only item that really I think has been a topic of discussion has been the parking. So I'd like to address that. Now, Abby's here with Great Lakes Capital, and she'll be giving the formal presentation of the project. But I would like to mention that there are 109 employees. At peak, there could be well over 130 physicians and employees at the building. There is overlap in staff when they're changing shifts. It's a 24-hour hospital. That doesn't include other physicians that might visit or family or visitors of patients. So we'll be here, obviously, to answer any questions you have about that. There is a bus stop, not close, but not very far away. It's at the corner at over by 7-Eleven, but most of the patients here would not be in a position to take public transportation. So with that, I'll ask Abby to give the presentation about the building and the property, and I'll be here to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baum.
Thank you, Garrett. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. My name is Abby Wilson with Great Lakes Capital, and I'll be presenting on behalf of our team tonight. I'd like to start by thanking city staff, particularly Judy and the Planning Department, for their time, guidance, and coordination throughout this process. We appreciate the collaboration in bringing this project forward. I'm joined tonight by several members of our team from Ernest Health, Robin Saxon, Chief Development Officer, and Christine Duran. She is the CEO of their Thornton location and will be the CEO of the Broomfield location as well. From Great Lakes, along with myself, I have Chris Alexander, who's Managing Director, and members of our design team, Bobby George with Decker Architects and Jeff Moore with Inertia Consulting, who is our civil engineer. So we've got the full team here this evening to answer questions after this presentation, should you have those. Next slide, please. To briefly frame the project, this is a proposed 56-bed inpatient rehabilitation hospital for Ernest Health. It's designed to provide specialized hospital-level rehabilitation care for patients recovering from events like stroke, injury, or major surgery, focused on helping patients regain independence and return home safely. Patients typically stay for about 12 days, which allows for a structured and coordinated care experience. From a broader perspective, this project brings a meaningful investment into the community, creates high-quality healthcare jobs, and expands access to a level of care that Ernest Health is already delivering in the region through their Thornton Hospital. Next slide. As part of our discussions with staff, there are a few items we wanted to discuss directly this evening. First item being parking, as Garrett touched on briefly. The city's code would allow for a lower parking count for this use. However, based on operational data and patient demographics typical for inpatient rehabilitation hospitals, we're proposing a total of 137 spaces, which includes accessible and EV spaces, to appropriately support day-to-day operations. From a patient standpoint, this is a population that typically falls in the late 60s to late 70s, with a majority over the age of 65. More recent data shows that over 80% of patients are age 60 and older, with a significant portion over 70. This is important because care in this setting is not limited to the patient alone. It involves active participation from family members and caregivers throughout the recovery process. That results in consistent daily visitation and involvement in care planning and coordination, therapy support and observation, discharge preparation, and transition home. Operationally, staffing includes approximately 109 core staff, with up to 120 to 130 on-site during shift overlap, which represents peak demand. This hospital operates on 12-hour clinical shifts with consistent transition periods. Daily activity also includes physicians, vendors, and outpatient therapy services. When you combine a population with specific mobility and access considerations, required caregiver involvement, and 24/7 staffing patterns, the demand for parking is steady and operationally driven. The proposed parking supply is intended to reflect those real-world conditions and ensure the site functions for patients, families, and staff. Next slide, please. To briefly touch on landscaping, the landscape plan is aligned with city standards and emphasizes water-conscious design. Plant species are selected from the City of Broomfield's recommended plant list. Approximately 65% of the landscaping is low water use, with the remaining 35% in the moderate category. Native seed mixes are incorporated in less active areas, and turf areas utilize a drought-tolerant hybrid blend to reduce long-term water demand. Overall, it's a straightforward approach that balances appearance, durability, and long-term water efficiency. And next slide, please. Lastly, to touch on sound, given the site's proximity to Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport, we understand that sound, particularly for overnight patients, was an important consideration. A sound study was completed as part of the project review. That analysis shows that interior noise levels within patient rooms and clinical areas will meet acceptable standards for healthcare environments, even accounting for nearby airport activity. This is achieved through building design, including wall assemblies and glazing that provide effective sound attenuation. So while the airport is a nearby use, the data confirms that the hospital will maintain a quiet and comfortable environment appropriate for patient recovery. So in closing, this project expands access to specialized rehabilitation care close to home, brings high-quality healthcare jobs to the community, and supports the continued growth of Broomfield's healthcare services. We believe this is a well-aligned use for the site and a meaningful addition to the community. Thank you for your time and consideration. I have a wealth of experts here to help answer the questions, should you have them. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to be heard on this item, please make your way to the podium. State your name and neighborhood for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council and staff. Jesse Applegate from Country Estates. I am a pilot out of Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport, so I am always concerned when somebody starts trying to build something that's potentially noise sensitive right next to it. Because unfortunately, we can't make our planes quieter, at least not with current technology. So what I did notice in the initial satellite photos, if it's possible to bring those up, I'm not sure if it is, but that this building is built relatively close to what's called a run-up area for the runway 30 right into BJC. That is probably the most commonly used runway for the airfield. And the run-up area is essentially a place where small propeller-driven airplanes will go and basically do final tests on their engine to make sure that they're not going to sputter, in flight, which would be considerably less ideal place for it to happen. So I want to put emphasis on so if you see the down to the bottom of the screen, there's that kind of taxiway that comes through and it bulges out, and that's going to be the run-up area for the aircraft. So sound attenuation is incredibly important for this site. It might be worthwhile, it would almost certainly be worthwhile, in fact, to look into potential options for specifically countering the noises produced by propeller-driven airplanes like the Cessna 172 that is most commonly found there. You're not going to have many problems with jets because jets don't tend to stay powered up too long, and when they do, they tend to exit the runways much further to the west. So thank you for your time.
Can I ask you a question? When you say test their engines, does that mean they're revving them
They're revving up
like
to
a car?
Yeah, kind of. So we have a direct connection between the engine and the propeller, so you can't rev it all the way up, but we are going to full power. That's about 2,300 RPMs. It's about as loud as the airplane gets on the ground, and we're trying to bring it to maximum RPM by bringing the fuel air mixture to a proper level, and then we're lowering the engine throttle down to about 1,800, do some final tests and make sure everything's going wonderfully. That's generally going to take around 3 minutes per aircraft, but there's 4 flight schools at the field, so you're not always going to have a pretty decent procession of aircraft going to that run-up area.
Thank you for that. Would anyone else like to be heard? All right, well then, moving on. Questions from council are did the applicant want to address that? Please, yes, sorry, Mr. Baum.
Thank you for the invitation. Yes. So first of all, the sound study that was done during peak times. Number 2, Eric Dahl, who's the airport director, Brandon Burns, and Ben Miller, who all work at the airport, are in support of this project. They're aware of the project, and they are out at the airport every single day and aware of what aircraft are doing and are not doing. And then lastly, you'll notice the Leprino hangar is adjacent to the site, and there are a number of buildings that are in between that particular runway and where this is. Lastly, I will mention that there's significant grade change from where the runway is, where the airport is, and where those buildings are down to this site. The slope is significant. and it drops off and falls off quite a bit. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that any of you have. But we did look into it. It was addressed at Planning Commission, and we took it seriously, and so does the airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baum. Well, we will move on to council questions now. This is the time for questions, and the time to state positions for or against our amendments is later. So are there any questions from my colleagues? We'll start with you, Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm a little confused. When I read the memo, it said that staff requested a noise study. The applicant provided a letter, but we are all talking here about a noise study that occurred. So I am confused about the disconnect between the memo and this other thing.
Yeah, the noise study was completed after our LERC hearing. So that was after the letter was sent to you guys.
So that's what's going on. So that's why the memo has the requested noise study. Okay.
Yes.
That is very helpful to understand. That was a little bit perplexing to me. And then in terms of, I think I'm definitely, a little nervous, but I appreciate that clarification. That was really the big thing for me. So I think I'm good. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to follow up on Councilmember Delgadillo's question about the noise study. So, Mr. Baum, you had mentioned that it was done during peak times. At least the slide on the presentation says peak nighttime. Are those two of the same things, or when you say peak time, you mean like peak daytime as well?
When I say peak, we approached the airport and asked them what was the busiest time and when should we do the study, taking into account when it would be the noisiest and the most activity. So the airport told us this is when you would want to do the study, and that's when it was done per the airport's guidance.
Thank you for that clarification. I think that's all I really had on the noise study. I do appreciate you giving us the full kind of data set on this slide. That's actually very easy to read. I appreciate that very much. I want to move on to the just parking in general. I know for the EV that you're required to provide on site, are you guys going to be offering that as a free service, or is that a charged service that will be? I know some businesses do one way, some businesses do the other way, so I'm just curious.
I've been just advised that it would be free.
Okay. My next question is, and I ask this of everyone, have you guys ever thought about putting solar panels over the parking? So that way it's not just a black asphalt surface or concrete, whatever you.
I'll let them speak to whether they looked at it. I can tell you, and it sort of came up in the last presentation with Westcor, and we're dealing with it with a lot of projects. It's difficult to get things to pencil. Whether or not they looked at it and from a value engineering standpoint chose or not to choose to do it, I don't know. We did some covered parking at the Brownstones at Palisade as an example. And for our next phase, we've been struggling with how we're going to afford to do that. So, I'll let them answer themselves, but I can tell you that it's getting more and more difficult to be able to afford to construct things in the present environment. Hopefully it gets better. And maybe that's something that could be considered sometime in the future if it were warranted and that they could, figure out budget. But I don't know that it doesn't sound like they can commit to it today.
Yes, and I'm not surprised that it's getting more cost prohibitive to build anything. But I'm just thank you for that information. It does kind of help.
I'm a big fan. It gets hot in the summer and it's great. And the people love them at the Brownstones.
I'm sure they do, especially if they have leather seats. And then I do want to address just the increased request for parking. Not that I necessarily have an objection for this particular parcel next to the airport. I'm not that.
The verse.
I don't know what word I would use, but you pick a word and fill in the blank. Um, but I am curious, do you guys, at least at your current facility in Thornton or at this facility, plan to do some type of employee incentive to get more people to use public transit? Not necessarily the patients, I'm not concerned about those, but for staff that are going in and day out, particularly the more regular staff, not necessarily the visiting physicians, for example. I don't know if that's something you guys have thought about, but if you haven't, I would recommend it. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Twist.
Thank you. And not to beat the noise question again, but here we go. I literally flew to Washington, DC to talk to the FAA about noise and safety around this airport. It is a major concern. I see that in the letter, it said that without published noise contour map from the airport, it is difficult to determine what noise levels to expect. So I appreciate that you went to the airport and asked them what the peak time was. I'm curious when they said that was and how long the study was.
Do you have the
Like
time?
over what period of time?
It was an 8-hour study on Wednesday. Between 8 and 8, a 12-hour study on Wednesday between 8 and 8.
So like
And
8
that's their busiest time is what.
a.m. to 8 p.m.? And how did you use those to determine peak nighttime levels?
Well, that was what the airport told us that was the busiest time of the airport.
Okay.
So,
Uh,
I mean, there are not a lot of
yeah.
planes that are coming
So-
in between midnight and 6 in the morning.
There are some from what I've heard a lot lately. I'm curious too in the letters and the info here, you mention like wall insulation requirements and glazing requirements and things, and that is all great for surface level noise. A lot of this is coming directly from above. I'm wondering what type of requirements you have for, roofing. Or if there's anything special for like medical facilities or anything like that that would help mitigate some of this.
Bobby George with Decker Design. When we look at the roofing in particular, it has 6 inches minimum of an insulation that's called polyisocyanurate, which is a very dense material that absorbs a lot of sound. So when we look at a wall assembly, we typically have about 2 inches of that type of foam. And on the roof, we have like triple that amount on top of a metal decking that has a dead air underneath it. So our sound transmission coefficient between the roof is probably about 50 to 55 decibel decrease in what the noise is. A solid wall on the outside that has 2 inches of foam is typically between 45 and 50, depending on how well the joints are sealed. And then our worst case problem that we would have would be our glazing, that our typical 1-inch insulated glazing units that we need to use for the new versions of the code coming up for energy compliance have a dead gas air-filled chamber that is very quiet. And really, we use the worst case in our studies, which was a decibel coefficient of 26. And that's kind of the worst installation you could imagine, with a guy not caulking the joints correctly, with a very big piece of curtain wall. Our patient rooms have a much smaller window, so we expect much higher performance. But what we wanted to show is if we took the worst case that we saw from the evening hours of the noise coming from the planes, and we took the worst case we were going to get from our roof or wall assembly, what does that give us? And that gives us the very low range of what the World Health Organization and all the facility guideline institutes require for nighttime sleeping. So again, we feel very comfortable that we're actually more worried about the noise coming from the roadway than coming from the airport.
Just curious, did you tell the airport when you were going to be doing the study?
Yes.
Okay.
We specifically asked
Yeah.
what was the busiest
Well,
day
I-
and the
yeah.
busiest time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for this presentation. Excited about this project. I really only have one question, and that is, have you talked with the health facilities in the area, let them know that you are coming? And is there any way that you all are working synergistically, either with UC Health nearby or anything like that? There are a lot of hospitals coming into Broomfield.
Oh, I'm Christine. I am the CEO of the Thornton location. I have met with a Vista hospital in Louisville. We've let Boulder know that all the area hospitals are very excited about our presence closer to where their residents are. So we have, spoken with them.
And is there any sort of like rehabilitation desert, you would say, in that area, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so there's one rehab, Broomfield, UC Health, Broomfield has a small 18-bed unit. But that's just not, there's more need than that. We've done a lot of studies on how many beds are needed. That is the only rehab hospital in this area. So people from Boulder, Longmont, Longs Peak, Avista, Louisville, Erie, everywhere are having to come over to Thornton. There is a rehab hospital in Westminster, but meeting with patients constantly after they've had strokes and brain injuries, and you meet with their wife and they say, I really don't want to drive on the highway. I can't, traffic's so bad. So there aren't any really rehabs to serve the whole west side.
Gotcha. Okay. That's the
Yeah.
only question I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
I just want to join with Councilmember Ward in encouraging the hospital to think about promoting multimodal transit with the employees, especially, obviously there's higher end salaries here that visit, but the kitchen staff, the nursing techs are not making a fortune. And it's interesting that employees could take advantage of Crosswinds being within walking distance, our affordable housing projects. Crosswinds is within walking distance. Harvest Hill is a little longer walk, but it's certainly within walking distance. And then, the BRT is a half a mile away. If I were in that situation, and were employed there, I'd look into the BRT, and I hope the the hospital does something to encourage that. I had a specific question about the parking. There's a statement in the memo that says, of the 137 spaces provided, the rehab center will provide 2 standard and 12 van American with Disabilities Act parking spaces. So I was a little confused why there aren't more ADA parking spaces out of the 137 at a rehab facility. That didn't add up to me. I must be missing something.
Good evening, Jeff Moore with the Inertia Consulting Group. So all of those spaces that you outlined, those are all ADA spaces. What we do is we are just exceeding the minimum amount of van spaces. So those 12 plus the 2 will make 14 total for the site, which meets and exceeds code.
Okay. I guess, is there a specific code for a rehab hospital that's different than another commercial facility or something?
We have not found any in city code or need from the client.
Okay. Don't you anticipate that there would be more people coming to the facility who would need those accessible spaces?
Yeah, we feel like there'll be a good amount of people, but per just operations and past experience with projects, we feel that the amount provided is
It's
sufficient.
at your other facilities?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the other piece. A lot of these patients will be dropped off, so
Okay.
a lot of front door access.
Okay. I'm picturing in 20 years, there'll be two of us. One of us will be dropping off the other one and still need to use the ADA parking. Okay. Thank you very much.
That's funny. My wife and I are having those conversations right now too. Seems to be going around. I'm sorry. Is there any other first round comments from my colleagues or questions? Councilmember Twiz, second round, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, what was the date of the noise study?
Completed on Wednesday, April 8th.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Anything final from the applicant?
No, thank you very much for, working with us. Again, Judy was great. We're excited to bring another fantastic project, good jobs to Broomfield, good investment to Broomfield, but most importantly, to have Ernest Health come and be here to support the community and the residents of Broomfield. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so there being no further questions, the public hearing is closed. Next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-62. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-62, approving Jeffco Airport Business Center East, filing number 1, replat B, Lot 1, Site Development Plan.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Henkel?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Ward?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Is that a discussion button or you're just highlighted from before? Okay. Any discussion? All right. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move forward to the vote on resolution 2026-62. Council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 9-0. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Look forward to seeing everybody out there for the groundbreaking and the ribbon cutting.
Can't wait. Thank you, Mr. Baum. Next, under action items is council's consideration on first reading of a proposed ordinance modifying the Broomfield Municipal Code related to city contracted waste collection services. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. And Barney Gordon, our Director of Public Works, is going to introduce us to this item and walk it through. Mr. Gordon.
Very good. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and city leadership. I'm here tonight to present the first reading of the ordinance number 2310. This ordinance proposes several key updates to our residential waste services program, specifically within Title 8, Chapter 4 of the Broomfield Municipal Code. The goal of tonight's presentation is to walk you through why these changes are being recommended and how they will improve the program for both the city and our residents. To provide some context, the Residential Waste Services Program was originally established through Ordinance 2242 and officially launched in March of last year. The core intent of the program remains the same, and we want to reduce the volume reduce the volume of waste heading to our landfills, encourage more robust recycling across the community, and provide our residents with predictable, stable collection rates. Ultimately, the program is about protecting the health, safety, and general welfare of the public through sustainable waste management. Next slide, please. Now that the program has been active for over a year, staff and the community have had a chance to see it in action. These proposed updates are not a change to our mission, but rather a refinement based on real-world feedback. Our primary goal with Ordinance 2310 are to enhance our administrative efficiency, clarify certain program requirements that were previously ambiguous, and most importantly, reduce burden on specific groups of residents for whom the standard program doesn't quite fit. Next slide, please. We have spent several months with vetting these changes starting in January of this year. Staff presented initial suggestions to the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability, or ACES. We returned to ACES in February and also held a council study session that same month. After refining The language based on those discussions, ACES reviewed the final version of the ordinance on April 13th and formally recommended that council adopt these changes. Next slide, please. As shared in the council study session, I'd like to walk you through the 5 primary changes included in this ordinance. First, we are addressing residences on agricultural properties. We found the properties with an agricultural designation often have very unique waste needs that doesn't align with our standard residential cart. This ordinance would formally exclude them from the program. Similarly, we are proposing an exclusion for residents on large lots of 5 or more acres. Data shows that participation in these areas is already low, and the logistics of cart placement on these large properties can be very difficult. Third, we are adjusting the threshold for multi-unit residents. Currently, buildings with 8 or more units are excluded. We are recommending lowering that number to 3 or more units. This is largely because smaller multifamily buildings often lack space for several individual trash and recycling carts, which often end up blocking required parking spaces. The final 2 changes are administrative. We are clarifying the property owner is the party ultimately responsible for fees, although of course they can still have those bills sent to the tenant. And we are requiring HOAs to maintain an active registration in DORA to keep the city updated with appropriate contact information to assist with administering the program. Next slide, please. We believe these changes provide a better service to our community and reduce some of the administrative burdens currently being experienced. If approved, these changes are recommended to take effect on July 1st of this year. With that, staff recommends council approve ordinance 2310 on first reading tonight. If you are in agreement, the appropriate motion would be to adopt the ordinance on first reading and schedule a public hearing and second reading for June 2nd, 2026. Thank you for your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to be heard on this item, please make your way to the podium. Well, then questions from council are next. Members should limit themselves to questions. Does any member of council have questions on this ordinance? Oh, okay. Well, okay, Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a question that's sort of a tangent on the HOA registration. It's surprising to me that we're not able to track them because they do have some tax benefits. They have to file a form so they don't pay taxes on their membership dues and other assessments. And I guess the DOLA registration is voluntary for some reason. Is there any leverage for us to be able to mandate or track them, to have a full accounting of, not just to track for these purposes, but communication purposes, since they do represent about half our population?
Yeah, we did have quite a few discussions with this with the city attorney's office, and at the end of the day, we determined there wasn't a lot we could do to require to force them to do these kinds of things. So we are in this ordinance requiring them to keep their DORA membership information up to date so we can have that contact information. There is no penalty or issues or they don't get penalized if they don't do that in this ordinance. But our intention is to, really pretty aggressively try to reach out to them, contact them, talk to them about this program, and make sure that they understand that the way to make this easier for us and them is to maintain that DORA registration. So
I'm going to
that
add,
answers your question.
Councilmember Cohen, and forgive the interruption. Actually, I'm drafting a email right now for Councilmember Cohen, on increasing the communication, not specifically, but it can be used certainly for our waste ordinance, but for our water. So we've done over the last 2 months, a deep dive of compiling all of the HOAs, contact information. We don't anticipate that we're going to be able to update contact frequently, but we do have, as we've talked about before, the number of management companies really does allow us to, these aren't just individuals, they're overall management companies. We've identified 6, and that takes up about 85% of our HOAs. So for the first time, we have a pretty, what we feel to be a pretty comprehensive list that we've developing for our upcoming water town hall that can certainly be distributed throughout for our ongoing communications.
Thank you for that. I'm just curious, since we do have some grants for HOAs in terms of water or be able to reduce their water usage, that maybe registering as a requirement, or you're not going to be considered some sort of leverage. I don't know if any other communities have some sort of licensing mechanism or a means to require them to register with the government.
Yeah, not to our knowledge. There's no requirements that we're aware of for other municipalities. My expectation is that we will, they will be encouraged. It's like a help us help you type a situation. Now, whether we limit water grants or anything like that based on that registration is something I'm sure we can have conversations about. But right now, it's just trying to get something in there so that we at least have a defined mechanism for them to maintain registration. So that's really the goal here. And then through multiple communications and multiple efforts, we will do our best to encourage them and help them understand the benefits of maintaining that registration.
You're nicer than me. I would use a stick. No, you don't get any water grants if you're not registered with us. That way you help us as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
Something we talked about at ACES was that, eventually if an HOA is not registered, then there would be an assumption that the household within that HOA does not have recycling. So if that assumption is made, then a household would be charged an opt-out fee, and that may cause some HOAs to suddenly decide to register because the households would be getting charged an opt-out fee when they didn't have to. Did we have a timetable on when we would say, okay, we gave you enough time, HOAs, to register? We should look at, the opt-out fee for the households within that area.
Yeah, you're correct. The ordinance right now, as long as an HOA has a contract and they provide that contract to us and it has recycling services, then they don't have to participate in our program and they're not charged an opt-out fee. So part of our plan to make sure that we get in contact with these folks is to look at data, look at the HOAs that we do have contact information with, look at the HOAs that we do have contracts for, and really try to put that information together and then try to identify where those gaps are, right? Where are these houses that aren't in the program or aren't in the opt-out fee and aren't part of a known HOA? And then we're going to do everything we can to try to identify the HOA that they're part of. Kind of a last resort, kind of that help us help you thing is, they will get a letter eventually from us saying, we haven't identified that you're part of an HOA. You're required to be part of this program or be an opt-out fee. So, if you are part of an HOA, we need that information shared with us. We haven't discussed a timeline on that currently, but we certainly will. Our intention is to very aggressively try to put this into place after it's adopted and put into the municipal code on July 1st. But we can certainly discuss a time frame.
Thank you. There's a statement in the memo that if this is approved, then to communicate the changes, especially the exceptions, that there'll be an informational insert. So will that informational insert go out to all households, or is that informational insert only going out to those households that would fall under the exceptions that were being made?
We're actually working on a few different informational inserts and surveys. For those that are already in the program, we intend on surveying them to determine how the program is serving their needs, whether they like it, if is it, how is it doing for them? As for those that are currently are in the opt-out program, we are also going to send out a flyer. We're not going to survey them because when they opt out of the program, we get information as far as why they've opted out anyways. But we have a feeling that some of those folks maybe just don't know the full benefit of the program. So we do intend in July, actually I think in June, of sending out that flyer to those folks that are in the opt-out program to just let them know about our program and encourage them to take advantage of it if they don't know. It would save them money. As far as the others, we've been working with Waste Connections to get very targeted information. So we're not planning on sending out an email or a flyer to everybody in the residence. We're trying to target the specific groups of individuals. So those folks that aren't part of a known HOA, that aren't in the opt-out program or not in the residential waste program, then we would certainly reach out to them with a different type of mailer, asking them about their HOA, their status, and the following up them. So we're trying to get very targeted with our communications.
Okay, thank you. That seems more effective.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? There being no further questions, next is council's consideration of proposed ordinance number 2310. Will the clerk please read the proposed ordinance by title?
Ordinance number 2310, amending certain sections of Title 8, Chapter 4 of the Broomfield Municipal Code to modify city contracted waste collection services.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading and order published in full? Councilmember Twist.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Delgadillo.
And
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll move forward to the vote on ordinance number 2310. Council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 9-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, seeing it's a 7:52, let's go ahead and take our 10-minute break now before taking on the last item. So we'll be back at 8:02. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Find your seats, and we're moving on to the next item. Our final item under action items is council's consideration on first reading of a proposed ordinance establishing vehicle nuisance provisions in the code to deter street racing and related unlawful and unsafe vehicle activity. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Yes, thank you. AC Stetson, our deputy chief, is going to take the reins and then introduce Nancy Rogers. DC, floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city leadership. I'm AC Stutson, Deputy Chief with the Broomfield Police Department for about 3 or 4 months now. Happy to be in front of you. I'm here tonight to discuss a staff proposal for establishing a vehicle nuisance provision within our code. I'm just going to go over some background with that and kind of tell you where we're at now and what the police department is doing. This is specifically part of a strategic response we have to combat street racing and unlawful assembly of vehicles and all the problems that are associated with that. So next slide. So I think all of you are aware over the last probably 4 or 5 years, there's been a large increase in organized street racing activities. And that also includes, I think it's important to establish car meets that are happening in the evenings, right? That are associated with dangerous vehicle driving, eluding street racing, and other things along those lines. That's been going on throughout the Denver metro area, and Broomfield has not been immune from that. In fact, I think we've been, for a while, a somewhat popular location for some of those meeting organizations. That is largely due to some reasons, the highways that run through our city. They're excellent in the minds of these people that are racing, and so that's one of the reasons, and some of the properties are good. These events often involve dangerous driving behavior from drifting, burnouts, eluding the police, and they pose a substantial risk to our citizens. In addition, they have a nuisance to our businesses that are not agreeing for them to be on the premises, and they create a lot of nuisances for our citizens and their communities. Just to give you some numbers, in 2025, we tracked 90 of these incidents. As of about a week and a half ago, 2026, we've had 32 incidents in the city. That ranges from events that have occurred with 500 to 1,000 cars to smaller events with maybe 50 cars, and also some events where people are just traveling through the city, which is a little more difficult to get some numbers on. As part of our enforcement activities this year, of those 32 events, we've issued 27 citations. We've had 19 eluding incidents occur out of this. And those are eludings, they're not vehicle chases. We're not chasing those vehicles. Total arrests have been 5 arrests, 3 DUIs, several felony warrants, and some possession of alcohol. We also had an event where one of the participants was selling alcohol to people individually at the event, which obviously causes a safety issue too. This spring, the Broomfield Police Department developed a strategic plan to deal with this and kind of change some of the focus of our enforcement. Right? That has concluded doing a command level response team that meets weekly, and we look at what's going on in the week. We monitor intel to see what's going on and try to establish some kind of response. The difficulty is these are often impromptu, or they are organized under social media at the last minute, and then they also move. We have increased dedicated overtime, so every Saturday night we run 2 officers, and their sole responsibility is if the events come into Broomfield, that they go up and work those events. The third thing we implemented this year was a trespass agreement formed with the businesses in our community. When we started reaching out to the businesses, some of them weren't even aware that these events were occurring at their properties at night, and other ones were aware and were very unhappy about it. And so in collaboration with those businesses and that part of our community, we have a trespass agreement where they go in and they sign their property with no trespassing, and then they do a pre-filled out agreement that we keep at the police department. The reason this is important is, one, we're signing these locations. So when the guys come in, they understand that they can't be there. It also allows officers at 1 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock at night to do enforcement of trespassing, where before it could be very difficult to contact reporting parties. The third part about this is our proposal to have, to implement a vehicle nuisance ordinance. And I want to kind of explain a little bit, and I know time is important. There can be some challenges to us enforcing these type of events. One of the primary challenges is often these events occur with 500 to 1,000 cars, right? That creates an officer safety issue. Also, it's difficult to identify the bad actors within that group because not all of them are bad actors, right? Also, due to the numbers, they engage in activities like blocking the roadway or slowing down so the people that are racing or doing burnouts can get out of the area. They'll obscure their plates, right? And those are things that make it very difficult for us to actually identify who the driver of a vehicle is, right? And stop them. This has been one of our challenges and one of the things that we're hoping this vehicle nuisance ordinance will allow us to have another tool to help deal with that. And the reason is traditional law enforcement for enforcement, we're going after a suspect or the driver of the vehicle, right? It can be difficult to sometimes identify them due to those challenges. This ordinance specifically goes after the vehicle or the instrument of the crime, right? And that's why it presents a different tactic for us to help combat the issue. Because with the ordinance, we don't have to identify who the driver is. We just have to identify what the vehicle is, and we still have to do that, right? If the ordinance was passed, there are some things that we would do tactically to change our response to these. I think it's important to note. One is now typically our response is to go up in the area, either deal with the enforcement of trespassing or the motor vehicle laws, like speeding and things like that. If this was to be passed, we would probably delay our response a little bit, and we would send to basically gather intelligence to try to identify the cars that are doing the bad behavior within the organization, burnouts, racing like that. And we would be doing that covertly because if we can identify the vehicles involved and then we respond up and they run, this would give us a tool to come back and find those vehicles later and have this process start. Turn it over to Ms. Rogers because it's a fairly dense ordinance.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Nancy Rogers, the City and County Attorney. The City Attorney's Office is partnering with Broomfield PD on this. As the Deputy Chief talked about, there'll be a lot of intel gathering and information. Then it will be shared with my office, and I'm going to talk you through that process once we get these cases going. Curtis, 2 slides out. Yeah, there we go. So this is a civil process. It's totally separate from the criminal process. So it's possible that a driver might be arrested for eluding, and at the same time, we're addressing the civil process to grab that car, which may not even be may not even belong to the person who was driving it in the moment. The remedies that are in this ordinance are impound, although we use fancy words for them like temporary restraining orders, closure orders, and we also have the option of an abatement agreement because I'll talk about that in detail later on. In discussing this ordinance with our neighbors, abatement agreements tend to be where a lot of these cases land. So as the Deputy Chief was talking about, this provides the police department with an additional tool. We know that these vehicles, when used in this manner, are a nuisance for our community. So the vehicles itself, just like potentially weeds on a yard, are what need to be abated. And by impounding that vehicle, we're abating the nuisance. This will enable the removal of these vehicles that we can show were involved in these criminal and unsafe driving activities. Next slide. There are specific activities that make a vehicle one of those that we can go at as a vehicle nuisance, and that's speeding, excessive speeding, 40 miles over or over 100 miles per hour, speed contests, eluding or attempted eluding, which is a ongoing and increasing problem in the metro area. Reckless driving, minimum speed regulation violations, which again go to just general speeding, obstructing highways, which is where a group might close down by their own slow driving part of 36 so that a race can happen for 2 or 3 miles on another part of 36. Unlawful destruction of property, donuts, spinning out in a field, spinning out and hitting curbs or light posts or barriers. And then 2 or more of disturbing the peace offenses within 180 days. So that is not really I don't want to call it a catch-all, but I want to say that that was our way of trying to address these large gatherings where maybe we didn't have the speed, but we did have the negative impact of the large gathering, the disturbing of the peace. And we can trace that to a tight time frame that the same group or the same promoter, the same planner was hosting that event. Next slide. So the general process is that BPD investigates, as the deputy chief alluded to. Then they share all the information with the city attorney's office. We might ask them to get further information, but once we have the information we need, we file a complaint in municipal court. We argue with the judge that there is probable cause for the judge to give an order that we can go impound this car. If we're not able to prove that, the judge will deny our request and we never go get that car. If we're able to prove the standard of probable cause that that event occurred with this 2024 Honda Civic, then we can hopefully get the order to impound the car. At that time, the court clerk will calendar the first appearance for the car's owner. Then the CAO has to serve the complaint on that owner. And we have various ways to try to effect service to track down the owner to make sure they're contacted about this case. Then there's a first appearance, I should say, during this time, BPD has impounded this vehicle. We have the order, we're holding on to the vehicle. So then they have the first appearance hearing, which is probably the first time we're able to sit down with the owner and say, let's talk about what we can figure out. Right? Your car was used, or you're using your car in a way that's not accepted in this community. Will you enter into an agreement with us saying, I admit that, and I promise not to do it again. And if you catch me again, here's what will happen. And then if we can come to an agreement, we would bring that before the judge and the person can get their car back and we can send them on their way. Sort of like a probation in the criminal context. I point that out because in talking with Westminster, and our ordinance is modeled after Westminster, they do a lot of abatement agreements. It's very rare that any of these cases actually go to that full trial that I'm going to talk about in a second. They really try to work with owners, even when they're innocent owners or even culpable owners, to try to work out an agreement to say this just is not tolerated in our community anymore. And if you want your car back, let's see if we can work out an agreement and that you will voluntarily agree to not do this again. But let's say that doesn't happen, then we do get a hearing within 35 days. So it's a pretty quick clip. Then we have a trial on the merits where we have to prove that that Honda Civic was used on this night for eluding a speed contest. And here's our video and here's the testimony by the officer. And Your Honor, we want a permanent impound order, which is called a closure order. We have to prove it by a preponderance of the evidence. So that's more likely than not 50% plus 1. And then if we're successful, we get that permanent order and the car stays in our possession. And then we, according to Westminster, at that point, sometimes they work out an abatement agreement with somebody where we have the owner pay for certain costs related to the impoundment, make even tighter promises about future use, and then there might be a release at that time. But as I said, the experience of our neighbors is that very few of these actually make it to that trial point. The cost for impound and towing is on the defendant in these cases, that if we're able to successfully prove our cases, that cost is attached to the case. If we're not able to prove our case, that defendant can actually make a request to the court to have the city take on those costs. So if you are able to defend yourself in these cases successfully, we don't want you to have to be paying for those towing costs. Next slide. There is an option in this ordinance for an immediate tow. So if the situation, not only you have the nuisance action going on, that eluding, speed racing, speed contest, but you also have a high risk that we will never be able to find this car in the future, or it is so dangerous, there's a higher need to grab that car now. There is the ability for BPD to impound on the spot. It's a very quick timeline. We've got to get before the judge to actually sort of confirm that we had probable cause to do that in the moment. So if you think about maybe, well, I don't want to scratch that. We'll just stay focused on this. Then we go to the judge and say, we impounded a car on Saturday. Here's why. Here's all the information. Here's all the proof we had. And here's a reason why we thought this higher standard of a severe safety risk or a severe risk that this car would never be found again was there. And if the judge agrees, we can keep hold of the car. If the judge disagrees, we release the car, and we are going to likely pay for that impound. That's not something that we'll utilize very often for the reasons that DC talked about, right? These can be highly volatile situations, and towing a car takes a lot of time in the moment, and that's not necessarily the safest thing in the moment. So we would only do an immediate impound if really the situation warranted it, and it could be done safely for the officers. We talked about the abatement agreements, which are those voluntary agreements. I wanted to talk about non-involved owners. We know that not every driver is the owner of the car. We also know from experience in other communities that some of the owners don't realize, don't know, don't condone that their cars are used in this way. If they are that person, they'll get notice of this case. They can come in and say, I had no idea. Here's what I'll agree to do. It's sort of like an abatement agreement, but pretty much it says, I'm not going to let Nancy use this car anymore, and I'm not going to let it be used by anybody for these unlawful activities. But specifically, I won't let my grandson, granddaughter, son, daughter, whoever was borrowing it and using it in this lawful way, use it again for this amount of time. And if it happens, then we're back in front of court. So we do have something for these non-involved owners who really aren't aware that their car is being used this way. I want to address parents and guardians. In Westminster's ordinance, they actually say that parents and guardians cannot be a non-involved owner. We didn't go that far in our proposed ordinance because I do think there's a situation where a parent or guardian truly could not know what was going on with their car. But I do want to put on the record, and this is in the memo, that generally we will question a parent or guardian about their child's use of their car, even an adult child, when they're asking to be a non-involved owner, because we think it's very important that parents and guardians, especially when we're talking of juveniles, know what is going on with their cars when they lend it out to the children that live in their household or have access to their vehicles. So yes, parents and guardians could be a non-involved owner, but I just want council to know, and tied to our efforts to really make this something that we can, that will be a practical and helpful tool. It's not going to be enough for a parent to say, oh, I just had no idea that I have a 16-year-old son, that my teenage son was using our Dodge Durango in that way. As a parent of a teenage son, I need to take a more active role in ensuring my son is not doing speed races, speed contests, and participating in this activity. I already talked about how if owner or defendant wants to, they can petition the court to ask about the costs. Excuse me, let me start over. If there was an improper impound, owner defendant can ask the court to not have to pay the costs. Next slide. And that is our last slide. Both DC and I are here for any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. And remind me, DC, last name. Stetson. What? DC.
Yeah, DC, Deputy Chief.
Deputy Chief. Okay.
But his name is also AC. It's been very challenging.
We'll get used to
Very
it.
hard. That'll be the next ordinance. We have a name change.
Well, thank you both for ACD. Okay, stop it. So That was excellent. And thank you all so much for your work on this. We'll move to public comments first. Anybody who'd like to be heard, make your way to the podium.
Roxy Jewel Lockmore. These ordinance will help our community a great deal. My house isn't very well insulated and I hear a lot of stuff going on 36 all the time. We have a noise ordinance, but it doesn't pertain to Highway 36, so I hear more than even the airport. The other thing is I'm hoping that we have a few motorcycle riders in my neighborhood that are loving to do wheelies and they're running into each other. And I would hopefully we can get them stopped before they end up hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. But maybe this can help for them also if it ever comes to be, or if I can find out who they are, maybe get the police out there at the same time that they're out there doing it. But motorcycles are pretty fast, and so are these cars sometimes if they're not working in a group. But hopefully this can work for the individual motorcycle riders too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, well then questions from council are next. Members should limit themselves to questions during this portion. Any questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, and I'm glad I'm no longer confused about AC/DC. I kept saying, isn't his name AC? But, yes, I didn't realize Deputy Chief, so thank you. Appreciate all of these efforts. It was disappointing to hear at the state level that it wasn't passing. I'll have more opinions about that later. I just have a few questions. It seems like the data from Westminster is working. Do we have any data from Westminster on how it's working, how it's not working, or anything like that? And are we going to track our own data as well?
On the attorney side, we know that they've only had, and I want to temper this number because I know that the attorney assigned to this has been working a lot with Westminster PD on these cases, but they actually have only had 5 actual filed cases that went through the process since they passed their ordinance in 3 years. But I don't think that actually reflects the number of times their PD looked into an issue, they contacted an owner, they tried to work something out. But I know on the attorney side, we have that number. I don't know if we have numbers from the police side. I know Wheat Ridge also attributes their vehicle nuisance ordinance to really helping as a deterrent, that they didn't necessarily have the case numbers, and I don't have that data, but they're seeing a reduction in incidences in their community because people don't want to risk getting their cars impounded. But I don't know if the deputy chief has more information.
I could speak to it a little bit. In talking with Westminster PD 12 times, they've used it since the beginning of this in some form or the other. Also, this was implemented in Wheat Ridge, right? Wheat Ridge only actually used this 1 or 2 times. And one of those times was an accident from a street racing. But what Wheat Ridge has found that they were very public with this when it occurred, when they made this change. And it's something that we have discussed as far as a media blitz, right? So it's as important as a deterrent. So Wheat Ridge was having some issues. This is anecdotal, but they stated that after this was pushed out publicly, that they saw a marked decrease in it. So that's one of the other benefits to this.
Interesting. And are we seeing, and this might be anecdotal too, so forgive for the question, are we seeing that the cars are like mom and pop cars where we are driving, 1970s cars, or are we putting a lot of money into these cars? There's this thought that, people who can't afford to pay for towing, are going to be hurt by this, but I also have seen a lot of money put into a spoiler. So I kind of want to understand a little bit as to the dynamic in the landscape on what kind of cars we're seeing maybe involved in these these
So
instances?
We're really seeing the entire spectrum,
Okay.
right? We're seeing from smaller events will have exotic cars at them, $100,000 cars, down to high school kid cars. So it really runs the gamut. Most of them are modified cars, but then you have people that are going to look at the modified cars, and those people aren't, you know, partaking in the racing and stuff, but they are supporting the activity. And that's where the size becomes important. And I think it's important that we're not talking about, the old days of 20 kids getting together and looking at each other's cars. We're talking 500 cars, hundreds of cars on a regular basis, which is a completely different, animal to have to deal with.
And we're seeing them, I think, maybe in other places, and correct me if I'm wrong, are they selling merchandise? I've noticed that I kind of track them on Instagram, to be quite honest, and there's a few of them on TikTok that I track, and they're selling merchandise. It's like a big moneymaker for some of them.
So there's several there's a wide variety of groups. There's several that we're aware of. One of those groups is directly involved in selling merchandise. They advertise selling merchandise at their meets, right? But then there's some smaller groups, smaller 100 cars or so, truck groups that are not necessarily selling merchandise. They're just kind of hanging out together. So really runs the spectrum, but some of these groups are bringing in vendors. So they're advertising vendors to come to their event, which also creates other issues within the city. So.
I have two more questions. Yeah, that's good to know. We are seeing an opening, I believe, maybe in Johnstown, of a street racing like the Bandamere type thing. Are we thinking that might alleviate some street racing and putting them up on the northern eastern side of I-25, or? I think it was in Johnstown. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember.
Well, Vandermeer's just had their track approved. And I think that is one of the reasons we're seeing an increase in this. It's not the only reason, but there's not many places for car enthusiasts to go and drive their vehicles. So the closing of Vandermeer about 4 years ago is somewhat contemporaneous with this increase, right? And then the Colorado National Speedway is opening up a smaller track, a 8th-mile track, which would hopefully also alleviate this to give these people some place that they can go safely, drive their vehicles and show them off.
That's what I would prefer. And if they want to make money, go for it there, I don't know. Anyway, actually, and I had two other questions. One of them I'm forgetting right now, so I hope I'll remember at the end here. I did want to ask just a little bit about probable cause. I do know that, we might hit some bumps with that one. How are we collecting evidence, and what does probable cause look like, and how are we moving through that?
I'll talk about probable cause. You can talk about collecting the evidence. So what we'll need is, let's say PD contacts and they say, we've got an eluding car. We know it. It's this Dodge all the time. And what do we need to get? And so our office will look at what the elements of eluding are. The type of car, all the identifying factors, license plate, color, anything, the scratch on the side, any identifying factors. We need video, to get that identification. We need to have that it happened in Broomfield. And then we also need to prove that it was eluding. So either that's officer's affidavit, or maybe the officer's affidavit in addition to the video that we'll have, maybe not dash cams, just cameras that we can get. So as long as we can prove identity, that it took place in Broomfield and that it was actually eluding a police officer, that's what we need to show probable cause. And for any of our crimes, it would be those elements. So you're looking at each of the statutes and saying, okay, what's the elements of speed? Sort of the same thing. Type of car, it happened here, and that the speed actually did exceed 100. And we know that because of a radar gun. And so that's all the information we would need. And we would have PD collect all that.
Well, as far as the PD collecting evidence to identify the vehicle, because that's what we're talking about in this, as opposed to identifying the driver. That's why I spoke earlier about changing some of our tactics as well on this, and that is using drones, cameras, and things to document the incidents. Obviously, there are vehicles that'll be more difficult to identify specifically than others. If it's a 2000 Mustang, there may be 50 of those at a meet, right? But it's through license plate. It could be through unique damage to the vehicle or unique graphics on the vehicle. And then we would need to do follow-up later to make sure that we're actually cleaning up that identification. So we're making sure we're taking the correct vehicle. There could be instances with, especially with eluding or on the highway, where we're never ever actually able to establish the vehicle specifically, and then in those cases, we wouldn't move forward on that.
And are we identifying the person in the car as well?
It depends on the situation. So if it's someone that stops and complies with this, then that's a situation where we can, right? But for the actors that are running, right, or running interference, we typically cannot identify them. There's some hopes if we change some of our tactics, we may be able to identify them beforehand, but the problem is, how do we show that that's the person that actually got into the vehicle and drove? So that can be a challenge, which is the benefit of this ordinance.
Thank you. One more question I remembered, mainly because in the Judiciary Committee, when we were testifying with Donna Moody, she did such a good job and we waited there for 7 hours. One of the questions that one of the representatives asked about was street takeovers and how is that different than, she asked this question, but I trust people understand how this is different, but how is this different than a funeral procession? Do we have permits for funeral processions, or this might be a question that people might ask?
I don't have the answer to the funeral possession.
They're not
It was the
speeding.
question they asked. I know, but it was the
Good
street
evening.
takeover. Are we addressing that or no?
So very different, and no, you do not need a permit for a procession. Sometimes when we do maybe a special funeral where we know there's going to be, let's say, an officer funeral, and there's going to be hundreds of cars, we get notified more for information in case we're running code 3 or lights and sirens, but we don't have to have a license for that. Different is going to be just common sense, really, for our officers. And what's going to be assisting us is those drones. When you can tell the difference between a funeral procession versus the street racing and the illegal behaviors that we're seeing in these situations.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's what we wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
I had a specific question about in the abatement agreement, it said that one condition was that the owner would agree that the vehicle would be listed on a law enforcement information system showing the persons restricted from use. So I'm assuming then, where you said you may not initially know who was driving, then by the time you get to the abatement agreement, that someone has admitted in particular that they were driving. Is that I mean, you can't have an abatement agreement then without knowing who was driving. Is that correct?
Thank you for that question, Mayor Pro Tem Lim. One of the conditions of the abatement agreement is that we do have that admission, either that they're a non-involved owner and they're aware that their car was used, or that they were the driver, or they know who the driver is. So yes, that would be to enter into the abatement agreement. If they're like, well, I just don't know, I let a lot of people use my vehicle, well, then we're not going to do an agreement yet. I need those names so that we're able to do effective enforcement in the future.
Okay, and then how do you intend on enforcing this? I guess, so you have, the PD would have a list of license plates, and they would know that this license plate should not have a certain person driving it, but may have a different person driving it. So I'm trying to picture how much, I mean, how will that be enforced? Would there be a lot of putting on sirens, pulling over the vehicle, or how would that work?
I'll talk first and then I'll turn it over to the deputy chief. So the promise is not only to not let that person maybe utilize the vehicle, but the promise is also that the vehicle is not used by anyone in a future vehicle nuisance. So I envision that very similar to a warrant or a stolen car notice, probably. When an officer pulls over a vehicle and puts in the license plate number, this would be one of the pieces of information as far as the history of that vehicle that would pop up. And they can look and they can say, oh, Mr. So-and-so, you're not supposed to be driving this vehicle. I mean, we can work out that detail, but I mean, if it's just your general speeding, like they were doing 20 over, I mean, that we're not going after the car again. So I don't know if that necessarily would be a violation of the abatement agreement. thinking on the spot, I guess we would get notice from an officer that, so we pulled over that Dodge again, and it looks like grandma is letting her grandson use the car again. That was part of the abatement agreement, right? Yep. Well, let's get in touch with grandma and let's talk about this because he just got pulled over. It was only 5 over or 10 over, but he just got pulled over again. So that's sort of how I see that playing out. And if she was obstinate, we'd bring her back into court. And I don't know, DC, if you want to add more about pulling over people with their history.
Well, so we wouldn't be able to pull someone over because they're into an abatement agreement, right? Because this is a civil process, right? We would still need a criminal violation to contact them. And I think that's important to understand. It's not like we'd be going out looking for cars that have the abatement. There won't be a large number of them anyways. But they'd have to be contacted for some reason, either a traffic violation or something along those lines in the future. Then that information would be made available to the officers and the process could work from there. This wouldn't allow us to proactively go out and contact people because they haven't committed a crime. It's a civil arrangement that they're not following.
That helps alleviate my concerns. I was worried about grandma proactively getting pulled over for no reason, just because she had let her grandson get in trouble using this car. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next is Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have a couple questions just to clarify for me, but on the recidivism issue, I don't know if there's enough data to say whether we have repeat cases with abatements, and if you do, does the penalty change or the agreement, I guess, change if you have an abatement agreement and they're back in front of you?
Thank you, Councilmember Cohen. If we're seeing a same car come back after we've already addressed it and maybe we gave them a chance and did an abatement agreement and they're getting back, my staff is less likely to enter into an abatement agreement again, and we'll be going for the full permanent closure order from the judge. And we'll use that history as a reason to say, we gave them a chance. They told us they needed the car back for their work. We had an agreement, and 3 weeks later, they're part of an operation where they were still very active in this illegal activity.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Henkel alluded to this in terms of your legislative experience, but is there any allowance for sliding scale? So if it's a abatement agreement with a 2003 Mazda versus a Lotus, which I happen to drive next to going to work the other day, which is $100,000+ car. Do we make any kind of, is there any allowance for that, or is there any reason to have an allowance like that?
Yes, there is allowance for that and discretion in the level of costs that we'll ask for from the city attorney's office. And I will tell you, being in Judge Bachman's court, I know that she makes those allowances too. And even when you find out that the person with the Lotus actually doesn't have any financial resources when she gets to talk with them, and the person with the other car does, and really trying to get underneath somebody saying, I can't pay for this. Well, tell me more about that. Why? What's going on in your life? And we try to get the appropriate cost amount for each person.
Terrific. That's good to hear. And finally, I'm curious, you've mentioned Wheat Ridge had a deterrence effect. Do you know is there any particular action we need to take, or would it, other than obviously a few enforcements, the word will spread, but do you put reader boards out on the highway on Friday and Saturday nights and not only let the drivers know, but the community members know we are doing this, or there's other signage to let people know that to just keep on going?
So it gets to the whole plan that we're looking to do, and we want to do a media release in a couple ways. One is that if this is passed, explaining to the community what this is through social media along those lines, because some of these guys actually monitor that as well, right? And sometimes they'll say, oh, the police departments work with us. You'll hear them say that about other jurisdictions. We have contacts with several of the larger groups. That'll be part of our process and reaching out to them. That's one of the reasons we've seen a slight decrease recently in the number of events, not just weather, is because of the trespass agreement we've gotten into, and we're directly communicating with them. And so that's part of that process. The difficulty with the reader boards is that's passing through, right? And so we really want to target the locations and the people specifically, and then do a broad public release.
I also think it'd be helpful for residents up in Ward 4 and 5 to know that this is in effect. So if they see the signs that say Broomfield will impound your car if you street race, might be helpful. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you for all of the work that you have done on this ordinance. I gotta say, I've got so many different communities in Ward 4 that have, repetitively asked for something to help with the speed racing. So this is really helpful. I think it would be good to clarify under the motor vehicle, that includes motorcycles, correct? It could be an RV even, or anything other than it. There's a few exceptions like electric scooters. So that would be motorcycles. Wheelchairs are excluded, but so that would cover pretty much any vehicle that we would be concerned about. Okay, I think that was helpful to know. And then I have just like a really curiosity question on this one. Under the immediate impounds, why would a vehicle be quickly concealed, destroyed, or removed? Who would destroy their vehicle? Like, why is that even included? I was just like, when you said that, I was like, that is.
That's not common, right? But it's not uncommon and some of these crimes are felony level crimes, right? They're not all just traffic, crimes. We have seen that. I've seen that in my career where occasionally people will hide their vehicle or destroy parts of their vehicle or change their vehicle to try to avoid the penalty, right? I think that's a pretty small likelihood of occurring. And as far as that's one of the reasons we could impound one at the time. Also, this can be used if we were already holding a vehicle that we're impounding for another reason. And that's how it's been successfully used, like in Wheat Ridge, where they had a street racing incident that involved in a very serious crash. So the police already had the vehicle for that criminal case, right? And this ordinance can be used there too. And that's how Wheat Ridge successfully used that to remove that vehicle from that person being able to endanger people in the future. So another way it can be used.
Okay, that's helpful. That makes more sense. And then I just gotta say, like from the time my kids started driving, we use Life 360. If they have their phone with them, they have their phone with them and it's on them, I can look at any trip they ever took. Maybe we can try to get that word out to parents to like, you really need to get something on your phone to track your children and where they are. It's amazing. So thank you for this. And I hope the state takes action eventually because that was very disappointing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you. 2 questions. The first is the non-involved owner process. Can you explain the abatement agreement, the entire end-to-end process, and if there is any cost to the grandmother, no parents, and the grandchild took the car, grandma didn't know what happens?
So when we get the records for the motor vehicle and we send notice of the case to the owner, that information includes the ability to who to contact in the city attorney's office to call. So that non-involved owner would call and say, I had no idea. I live in Broomfield, but this person who's using the car is supposed to be down in Colorado Springs going to University of Colorado Springs. I didn't even know they were back in this community, or let's say something like that. So then we engage in that conversation and we'll say, well, if you're willing to enter into this abatement agreement with us, then maybe we can resolve this. Here's what we would ask for. Don't let that person use the car. Maybe utilize an app where you can tell how they're using it and get terms that are agreeable for that non-involved owner. Then we get to the costs and they say, so do I have to pay for this being impounded? And that's where the discretion that Councilmember Cohen asked about, we would work with it to say, okay, well, let's talk to you more. Let's find out what was going on, because I do feel strongly from my position that you can't totally feign ignorance when you're letting somebody else use your car, a friend, either their grandchild. So I do want there to be some level of accountability on some of those costs borne by that owner, because I do think car owners have a responsibility here. I also do understand that that's a hardship for a lot of people, and that's where we can work on that discretionary sliding scale that Councilmember Cohen was talking about. Now, the judge could disagree. We could get to the abatement agreement and get her to order it, and she would say, I'm actually going to have the city cover all the impound costs. I'm also cognizant that I don't know if the taxpayers should pay for all the costs of impound. So it's a balance, and it's going to be a case-by-case basis.
Councilmember Anderson talked about, I think, scooters and other things, bikes, e-bikes and stuff. Does this also apply to like sidewalks and people going crazy?
I might defer to the deputy chief, because looking at our crime, there could be vehicular activity that is reckless because it's not done on a road. But the intent of this ordinance is not to address some of these all-terrain vehicles, e-bike type of behavior that we're seeing on our trails. That's not really what this is here for, is if that's what you're thinking about.
So specifically, there's some definitions within the ordinance, and I'll just go over them real quick. There's the speeding, which is 40 miles an hour over a posted speed limit or over 100 miles an hour, so excessive speed. Speed contest, which is racing. Reckless driving, what you're describing would not qualify as reckless driving. It might be careless. Reckless is a willful and wanton disregard for public safety when you're driving. Minimum speed regulations, what that is really talking about, so you have an understanding, is that's talking about the events where they're going onto a highway and they're slowing down the traffic so they can race. That's how we charge that in the motor vehicle statute, right? Unlawful destruction of property or 2 or more offenses of disturbing the peace. So those behaviors that you're talking about, not really covered under this ordinance, in my opinion, looking at the laws. Also, we're trying to use this to really go after the worst and the most dangerous violators. Not that riding a bicycle or some of the things on the sidewalk is not dangerous, but this type of organized behavior creates a huge public safety to many, many people. And I think that's the intention, is to use this specifically to try to dissuade and get rid of that type of behavior from our community. I'm sorry.
I was going to add one more thing on that would be really helpful. In the actual ordinance, we actually define motor vehicle, which is also defined by our CRS, which is our Colorado revised statute, our laws basically. And it specifically states that it will not, does not include electrical assisted bicycles, electric scooters, low power scooters, wheelchairs, or vehicles moved solely by human power. So we actually use the definition that the state uses as well for motor vehicle theft, or motor vehicle, I'm sorry, no theft.
Cool. All for me.
If that's helpful or answers your question.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Most of the complaints that I received personally were from activities in the County Commons Park, from the homeowners that live adjacent to that area. So can you explain to me how this ordinance will help us prevent those huge gatherings at 10 p.m. at night? How would this mechanism help us prevent that from happening? Or have we kind of gotten a solution with the permitting and police presence? Thank you, Chief.
Mary, that is a great question. I don't know if it's going to help with the gatherings. I think what we see at those gatherings, a lot of times they're doing these behaviors of speed racing and everything else. I think it might deter them a little bit, because for some reason, when they come together, that ends up happening. Our response to, for example, Commons Park, probably over the last 3 or 4 years, well, since 2020, has been very proactive. We get those complaints not as often, so I don't think that really takes away from the work that we need to do for the response at Commons Park. But I think this will be one more piece, because unfortunately, when they get together, a lot of it ends up being these behaviors. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I haven't gotten any complaints recently. So.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah,
right?
it must be
And
working.
and the
Whatever
weather's
you're
been
doing.
nice, so yeah.
Have you? Oh, they're up at Bayside now. Okay. Sorry about that.
And yes, great point. Thank you, DC. And last year, I think I shared this with council, one of the proactive things that we did, and I think Mayor, you brought this up, was the gathering of so many cars at one area without a permit. So we were really utilizing that as another tool to prevent them from just meeting up. So there's other laws that are helpful for us as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Ms. Rogers?
There is, one of the reasons we included the unlawful destruction of property is that if we do have good video or we can identify the vehicle and they're doing donuts and they're destroying our property, Broomfield could be another, that we can now we haven't been able to get a good identification of the driver to issue the ticket for that activity, but now we could potentially go after that vehicle for that unlawful destruction of property.
All right, I like that. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Any other questions for the good? All right, then next is council's consideration of proposed ordinance number 2304. Will the clerk please read the proposed ordinance by title?
Ordinance number 2304, establishing vehicle nuisance provisions in the Broomfield Municipal Code to deter street racing and related unlawful or unsafe vehicle activity.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading and order published in full? Councilmember Henkel.
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Anderson.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things here. I wanted to just thank, I know Donna Moody is listening. She couldn't make it in tonight, and also Manager Hoffman and also Councilmember Anderson for working a lot on this as well. I do want to read a little bit of Donna's letter because she does have some good ideas in here. She often does around this issue. Part of her letter today said that it has become clear that a strong statewide approach is needed to enable municipalities to address this issue that crosses jurisdictional boundaries. The creation of the active and strategic street racing response team with weekly meetings, the recognition that overtime may be necessary, and the ongoing outreach to local businesses to post no trespassing signs on private property where these racing groups tend to congregate are key. So I think, the more that we get this information out there, once it's passed fully, I feel like that would be a win-win for everyone. And then lastly, I would like to just ask and just see if we could catch any sort of data collection on this. And perhaps we have more reports now that people feel like they could report something. But, just knowing that we're trying to do something on this and what that looks like maybe at our next update from PD. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, we'll move forward to the vote on ordinance number 2304. Council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote, and it passes unanimously 9-0. Thank you all so much. I know the community has really wanted us to do something, and I appreciate that we did. Appreciate y'all. There are no mayor or council member requests for future action this evening. Is there any other business to come before the council from my colleagues or staff? There being no further business, the business meeting is adjourned. Council will convene for the executive session immediately following this meeting. Once the executive session is complete, council will adjourn and will not be returning